Last semester, you learned about the nervous system and how that's a form of communication with body parts. Now we're going to look at a second one, the endocrine system. So you need to be able to have communication between So you have two methods of communicating between body parts. Nervous system, which you learned last semester. This is where you have an action potential in a neuron. And you then secrete neurotransmitter onto the effector. So here is your neuron. This arrow represents the action potential moving through the neuron. Here are the cells that are your effectors. They're the cells you're telling to do something. And here you can see you are secreting neurotransmitter. So this is an up close of right here. Those synaptic knobs at the end of the axon secrete neurotransmitter. Then recall that neurotransmitter binds to effectors, binds to receptors on your effectors. And that is how you stimulate your body parts to do something. So then we have a similar situation with hormones. So endocrine is when you use hormones to do this. So an endocrine, a gland, secretes a hormone into the blood. And the hormone will bind to receptors on its effector. So here on this side, you can see here's the hormone in the blood. These cells are the effector, and you can see that the hormone is leaving the blood and it's binding to receptors on those cells. So this is where endocrine and nervous are similar. They both have a chemical that binds to receptors on the effector, and this is called a ligand. So you may remember in chapter 12 we talked about ligand-regulated gates. So a ligand is a chemical that binds to a receptor. So hormones and neurotransmitters are your two types of ligands. Now let's look at differences between endocrine and nervous. Nervous is very fast. We're talking a fraction of a second. It's also very precise. The neuron goes to the effector cells. So only the effector receives the neurotransmitter. Endocrine is slower because you travel in the blood. So you're relying on the blood to deliver the hormone. So it can take a few minutes for the blood to get the hormone to its destination. It also is widespread. Since the hormone is in the blood, all the parts of the body are exposed to the hormone. So the way you target specific cells is with the receptors. Only cells with the receptor for that hormone will respond to it. So any cell that does not have a receptor for that particular hormone is just going to ignore the hormone, even though it's being exposed to it. It also has long-lasting effects. So a nerve signal only lasts for a fraction of a second, but hormones will continue to stimulate their effectors for minutes or several hours or even a couple of days. Now let's look at types of hormones. You have 3 main types of hormones in the body. The first type of hormone is steroid. Steroid hormones are made from cholesterol. So you eat cholesterol, it's part of your food. Some of the cholesterol that you eat gets converted into your steroid hormones. And cholesterol, remember, is a lipid. So these steroid hormones are also a lipid. And lipids are hydrophobic. So they don't like to mix with water. A few examples of steroid hormones are the sex hormones. So estrogen and testosterone. Estrogen is in women, testosterone is in men. This is a picture of the adrenal gland. The outer part is the adrenal cortex. In chapter 15, you learned about the adrenal medulla. That's the inner part. The adrenal cortex secretes over 20 hormones. And they are steroids. An example of one that you'll learn about in this class is aldosterone. Then another example is vitamin D. You probably remember this from chapter 6. When you eat cholesterol, that cholesterol goes to your skin where keratinocytes convert it to vitamin D when you sit out in the sun. So vitamin D is both a vitamin and a hormone. It is considered a hormone because your cells are making it and putting it into your blood. Our next main type of hormone is the biogenic amines. These are also sometimes called monoamine. Okay, look at the word here. Break the word down. You have amine. That is for amino acid. And if you look at the monoamine name, mono means one. So this is one amino acid. So biogenic amines are a modified amino acid. So you get these hormones because you eat protein. And whenever you eat protein, you digest it into amino acids. And then you modify some of these amino acids to become your biogenic amine hormones. A couple examples of biogenic amines would be thyroid hormone. And this comes from your thyroid gland. And look at this, these people are skydiving. They're having an adrenaline rush. Epinephrine. You remember from chapter 15, learning all about norepinephrine? That is also a biogenic amine. Our third one is the protein hormones. They can also be called peptide. These are also made of amino acids, but the difference is that it's several of them. So again, with the biogenic amines, you eat protein, you digest it into amino acids, and in this case, instead of just using one, you're taking several and stringing them together. And an example of a peptide hormone is insulin from your pancreas.